Hey guys, thanks for tuning in to LearnCast. My name is Serena, and today we will be discussing the big philosophers of Rene Descartes versus Bacon. I know, what a cool name, right? And all the other deeds and ideas from the scientific revolution. Well, first of all, the scientific revolution was in the mid-16th century, and so that was around the 1540s when it started to kick in full-blown, and it stuck around for a good century or so around the 1650s. And many of the good ideas of what we have today on atheism, science, and technology really started from there. In the scientific revolution, what was perceived as truth really came about, and skepticism about God became much more widespread, which weakened the authority of the Roman Catholic Church. With the Roman Catholic Church, of course, they played a pretty big role in people's lives and how a lot of the policies were run in governments. So they played a pretty big part of their lives, and because with scientific backing and people trying to understand what was real or not, really undermined their power, and science was becoming a bigger placeholder in people's lives. Of course, what really set the stage for the scientific revolution, though, was the Renaissance. Now, the Renaissance was before the scientific revolution and encouraged curiosity in science, which of course led to the doubts of the highly prominent figure of God in their daily lives. Philosophers gained much different opinions on how to find what was science, though. So this is where Descartes and Bacon come in, because while both Descartes and Bacon agreed that the real truth would only and always come about after a certain process, that's where they diverged, because, while on the one hand, Bacon himself strongly believed in experimentation. He thought that the only way to prove was to have hard data, science, and have new technology and invention in mathematics to prove that there was something real, and that there was some sort of data behind it to prove and to show others that something else was going on. While Descartes, on the other hand, had a strong leaning towards reasoning, and he believed that every process shouldn't just be just like, oh, well, I put something on the scale and that proves something. He believed that there was a lot of details and argumentation on both sides and understanding of why this could be wrong and why this could be right, to have a actual search for the knowledge that was important. Now, while they both had opposing views, the two methods of the experimentation from Bacon and the reasoning from Descartes is what shaped the scientific method we have today. So that's a pretty big, lasting effect. And other than the philosophies and the ideas of what religion was, there was also an emphasis on studying nature, which of course also begged the question of, could science explain everything? With these discussions, they formed big international scientific communities. Now, with the scientific communities, they were mostly filled with rich people, and because the rich people were able to become more educated, and with more educated rich people, it also increased the wealth gap. Now, with the wealth gap, not just the wealth gap, my bad, it increased the education gap, and with the education gap, that's where it hits big, because the rich people were getting smarter and new technology was being spread. Nothing really changed for the poor people. They were just living a very farmeristic life, and the government, of course, didn't have much of an interest in funding in public education. The idea of public education was not even coming about. So that was a kind of an issue with social issues. So if you learn about the scientific revolution, all you hear about is the stuff that rich people discovered, or they learned, or they were trying to experiment with. And of course, it wasn't always sunshine and butterflies with the international scientific communities, because while there was discussion between the countries on spreading ideas, there was also forming animosity between countries, because some countries would be like, oh, well, we made some bigger revelations and you guys haven't, and so there were superiority complexes going about, we are more powerful, we know more. So that was an issue also. Now, Another lasting impact was science challenging the church again, and even today we see it has a very long-lasting impact on agnosticism or various different beliefs. Okay, and there is also where creationism started. Now here, Bacon especially, he argued for creationism, saying that, hey, maybe there is a change in people because God designed people to do so, not like where the Bible said, or maybe what the most people accepted, that nothing can change because God made us, made people the way they were. And so Bacon, while he was a man of science, he still argued a way around for creationism. And because while some people were like ready to accept new ideas, some were still against like defying the Bible directly. And with creationism, like Bacon argued for, it gave people a way to understand and accept maybe that there were different possibilities in the world. Because of this, the challenge for authority and oppressive governments started to crumble, and so a lot of new discoveries happened, and people were starting to trust the church a lot less. There was some scandal beforehand, and people were ready to turn to a new sort of belief. And with a new belief, there was also technology. Now, technology, it started here. Like, it's here in the scientific revolution is where it really kicked in, okay? Because new innovations were being built, and that's where our dependence on it starts with our today. Like, everyone has a phone or has a computer, like it's in our pockets and everything, and we carry it around, and like our dependence on it just starts because in the scientific revolution, people were becoming more curious and were building new different machines, and math and science really took place here. And so that's another thing that impacts our lives. And so now here is where the economy it didn't change much. Like the people were getting smarter and there was more technology, but like the people were still, they were like still agriculture based countries. Like the majority of people were still poor, so like not like a new frontier on like the green revolution or some sort of like agriculture revolution and like big money. But technology did play a part in how navigation was done, because a lot of trading was done overseas or like by sea or with boats. And so here there were like the inventions of the telescope and the barometer, and ocean tides were greatly studied, primarily first by Galileo and then Kepler, and then later Isaac Newton. Isaac Newton isn't really part of the scientific revolution, at least not in the strict idea of the timeline, because he came a little later than Galileo and Kepler. But yeah, like the big stuff, like the telescope we still use today, like we have large telescopes, and this all came about during this time period. So we covered basically on the different effects of the scientific revolution, Bacon and Descartes, and how their experimentation and reasoning is what we have for the different methods of studying science. And we talked about how there was this emphasis on nature. But so thank you for joining me on a review on the scientific revolution. Be sure to follow us on Spotify, subscribe to our YouTube channel, check our website to stay up to date with the latest releases. Until next time, listen, learn, repeat.